All right. So you asked me what's going on. Lots is going on every day.
What the big one that's going on is this, and I want you to tell us all about this, because I'm going to be there, and I'm.
That's right. That's right. You're coming. You're coming. Okay. I think that there's a couple of important things. I mean, let's get to the guest instructors here in a moment, because they're all power hitters. But the first off is that it's being led by Tim Barker. This is Jeff Lawton's former land manager. And so then when Jeff Lawton would teach PDCs at his place, then Tim would, would shoulder most of it. And so that way, Jeff can be the diva that he is, and, for the guts of it, then it was Tim leading it. And now that Tim is on his own and no longer Jeff Lawton's land manager, and Tim's been here several times in the past. He taught the appropriate technology course here last year, and then for the previous 2 years for that, he was one of the innovators at the Rocket Mass Heater Innovators event. And so the Rocket Mass Heater stuff, the rocket stove stuff that Jeff Lawton shows off, those were all creations of Tim. And so anyway, Tim has a very powerful philosophy about a permaculture design course, and that it should be very heavy on the design. That's the reason you're there, is the design. And he feels that, like, for most PDCs, when you get done with the PDC, that you go away and you kind of half-ass put together one design, and you didn't spend a lot of time doing it, and you're kind of glad it's over, and that's it. Whereas Tim kind of feels like the thing to do is you're going to start drawing out your designs early, very early in the class. With other PDCs, it's like usually right around, because it's a 14-day event, like around day 10, you start drawing. And the one I took, I think we may have started around day 8 or so. Like, you did a bunch of stuff for the first week, and then in the second week, it's like, instead of having class time, suddenly you're like, okay, there's some stuff to draw on. Here's some stuff to draw with. Start drawing. So, Tim was here for like the last week of the PDC we had last year, and he was saying a lot of stuff about how he really felt strongly that the students, need to be doing a lot more design, much, much more, and roughly, when I quizzed him about it, 4 times more. So, and one of the guest instructors we're going to have here, who's going to be here for the entire event, is an architect, and he's going to help people with, like, drawing all the things that architects do. All right, so yeah, let's go take a look at our guest instructors. So there's a picture of Tim. I'm not sure if he owns a shirt that is not orange. That maybe in Australia that means something. Okay, so Thomas Elpel, author of Botany in a Day, but he's also a natural builder. He's a big fan of the slipstone stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
No, what's that?
Well, he's a big fan of building structures from stone, and then you've got a slip form, and you basically kind of throw all your rocks and cement into the slip form. It sets, and then you slide it up.
Oh, okay.
And then you throw in more rocks and cement. I mean, when you the Nearings, when they wrote their book, is it A Good Life? Oh man, I'm embarrassed. But okay, so when the Nearings wrote their book, then they're basically advocating don't build stuff out of wood, because wood always rots, and then you're constantly doing this maintenance. You build out of stone. Now, of course, the downside is that stone tends to be like not very insulative. So anyway, Thomas Elpel has a technique where you can build a stone structure much faster, because that's the downside of building a stone structure is that You got to have some skills, and it's going to take a long time. And with Thomas's techniques, it goes much, much faster, and you don't need as many skills.
This living home book here, guys, is what it looked like covered that slipstone stuff. Yeah, stone masonry. Can't read it quite.
And the big thing that he does is that primitive living stuff. I mean, I think that's like 90% of his life, is that he has people come and live on his property, and they're doing all this stuff with like brain tanning, and it's like, okay, we're going to take you into the woods. You need to get by for a week, and you don't get a pocket knife. You don't get matches. You don't get anything in your pockets at all. And it's like, you're going to need food and shelter, and you're going to need to stay warm. And so then he teaches people that kind of thing. That's an enormous part of his life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's guest instructor number 1. Guest instructor number 2, if anybody's listened to my podcast at all, they usually tell me that, like, I've met 2 different people that have told me that each one has said that they've listened to all of my podcasts twice, and the podcast with Helen Attow they've listened to 4 times. So back in 1996, I took the Master Gardener training, and Helen was the person doing the training at that time. And she also had this amazing market garden. She was the I don't know if you've ever been to the Saturday market in Missoula, but it's like the most epic market I've ever been to. And I've been to a lot all over the country. And Helen's booth was the premier booth she had the sweetest spot and the sweetest stuff at the Saturday market. So she really had this, market gardening thing down. And I went out to our operation and expert composter. Wow. Taking composting to a whole new level. Yeah. And then she left all of that behind, and she went and spent time managing a 2,000-acre organic farm. Right. And when she was in college, she was an intern with Masanobu Fukuoka.
Oh, man. Cool.
That's pretty huge.
Yeah.
And so a lot of her work is about trying to continue Fukuoka's work. Okay. Now she's working, doing a lot with food forests and orchards and things of that nature. But the thing is that she's a soil scientist, and she's sharp. And basically, she and I will disagree on a lot of things. I mean, of course, we agree on things, but we tend to not talk about the things we agree on. And I think that when we make a podcast with her and I, we will argue about some finer point for ages. And I think that the way that we argue is good. We have very good reports, very respectful. I think one of our most famous arguments was that I felt confident that legumes will slough off nitrogen. So they'll accumulate nitrogen for themselves, and then they'll slough off significant amounts of nitrogen while they're alive. And Helen said, none of them give off any nitrogen until they're dead. You have to either stress them or kill them completely, but just leaving them alone, they won't give off nitrogen. So we had this big, big debate. And of course, we're giving Google a workout during the debate to argue about it. But fortunately, when it was all done, we put it up as a podcast. Somebody found 1,500 different white papers that supported my position. So I won.
No, I thought they attracted nitrogen. They weren't putting off nitrogen.
Well, they develop a symbiotic relationship with certain bacteria. And then they're able to pull nitrogen out of the atmosphere, because the atmosphere is 80% nitrogen. Well, 78% nitrogen. And then, so these bacteria are able to access the nitrogen in the atmosphere and then work it into legumes. through nodules. I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that. But the thing is that legume has an unfair advantage over other plants that are nitrogen hungry, in that it has this technique to get more nitrogen than they can get. Now, you know, when they get to the point where they're like nitrogen heavy, like, oh, look at this, I've got loads of nitrogen now, and all those other plants want it, and it's like, but I got gobs and gobs and gobs. It sucks to be them. Well, part of what the plant is going to do is it's going to make a little teeny tiny microscopic root hair, and then 2 hours later, it's going to slough off that root hair. It's going to let that root hair go. So now the question is that root hair loaded with nitrogen? Now, there are some legumes that put out much less nitrogen than others. So, for example, a famous example is black locust versus honey locust. Black locust sloughs off a lot of nitrogen while it's living, and it's very generous to the plants around it. Honey locust is not. And so honey locust is kind of greedy. So I'm sure it still sloughs off some degree of nitrogen. It's just not as much.
Do you still get the nitrogen nodules?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, otherwise it's not a legume. I think that's like part of the definition of being a legume.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, I know this guy. While you explain this guy, I'm going to go get a beer.
Okay, all right. So Ernie Wizard, not only is Ernie like a co-author of the Rocket Mass Heater Builder's Guide, and he's the star of both of my 4 DVD sets, the Do-It-Yourself Rocket Mass Heaters, as well as Wood Burning Stoves 2.0. But for 3 years, he worked. He was an intern of sorts, or I don't know what exactly to call it, but he lived with Ianto Evans. And Ianto Evans, of course, very famous permaculturalist, very famous natural builder. He's the inventor of the rocket mass heater. So Ernie's built 700 rocket mass heaters, and most of those he built while he was at Ianto's place. And then there were 2 different occasions where Masanobu Fukuoka came to the United States, and on both occasions, he went and hung out at Ianto's place. And while he was there, then apparently Ernie had to give Fukuoka the tour of Ianto's place. And on one of those trips, it wasn't just Fukuoka, it was also Bill Mollison. So it was so there's Ernie. He's being the servant of sorts to Fukuoka, Mollison, and Ianto Evans. So Ernie's got a lot. Now Ernie's going to be at the event for the whole event. I don't know if you've ever visited with Ernie, but all you got to do is like, if you want to sit down with Ernie and have a long chat, you sit down and you look him in the eye and you say, boats. And now you're going to be occupied for several hours.
Okay.
Because Ernie used to be a fleet captain, and so he managed the whole fleet. But the ocean is like his passion, and he's building a boat with his dad right now, and boat building is a big part of what he does with a lot of his life. So. But lots and lots of stuff, about Ernie, and Ernie's like my brother. Erica hangs out with Ernie a lot, and then really with the Rocket Mass Heater Builder's Guide, it's like Erica's the author, Ernie kind of helps some, and so in fact, I wonder if the cover should say it's written by Erica Wisner and Ernie Wisner. I'm not sure if it does or not, but it would be cool if it did. But the thing is that Erica is a science teacher, and so she's very good at teaching. You're trying to zoom in on the book?
Yes.
So Erica's quite good at teaching, and so usually whenever you're gonna have a rocket mass heater workshop, you have Ernie and Erica there, and then yeah, there it is. It does. It says Erica Wisner. Okay, cool. Erica Wisner and Ernie Wisner. She did most of the work of writing the book, but Ernie's built more rocket mass heaters than she has. But anyway, and then she's also an author. She had another book, a science textbook that she'd written.
Yeah.
But the big thing is that when you have an event, then Ernie's all about like just get out of the way. I'm going to build this thing, and Erica is the one who'll be patient with you and answer all of your questions and is like, thinking about what words she can say to help you understand. And Ernie's a little less patient. So Erica will also be there for the entire PDC.
Okay.
And yeah, and they're going to be teaching certain segments. I'm not sure which. I think they're probably going to be doing a fair bit of natural building. I don't think that there's like a PDC doesn't have a segment on like rocket mass heaters. Because of course you've got, Tim Barker, Ernie Wisner, Erica Wisner there. It's like, oh, this is going to be a rocket mass heater PDC. I don't think that that's really going to happen. I mean, of course, people will be able to ask lots of questions about rocket mass heaters and stuff like that, and you're going to have like, world's experts there. It'll be the rocket mass heatery, the most RMH-ish PDC there can be, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely fair to say this PDC will have rocket mass heaters.
Right. I think we got a dozen here right now. So, during the tour, if nothing else, you'll get to look at them. But it'll be like May and June. I don't think we want to fire them up. It'll already be plenty warm. All right. Next, who's next on the list? I'm looking at. Oh, there. Okay. Jacqueline Freeman. Oh man. So she's got this brand new book out called Song of Increase, and at first I thought that was a stupid title, and then when I actually read the book, it's like, no, that is the perfect title. And Jacqueline, I mean, her husband Joseph is this guy. It's like he teaches something, and I'm not sure teach is even the right word. He shares about this thing that he does with horses and other large animals where he kind of sits with them for days. And so then Jacqueline would do this with the bees. She's got like this whole thing out there where the bees are, and she just sits out there with the bees for days and days and days. And she hears every little sound, and she watches every bee come and go. And I don't know, she bonds with the bees. But I've been to a lot of farms and gardens, and I've seen a lot of people keeping bees and doing bee stuff, honeybee stuff. And usually when I'm there, then they're like, okay, let's do an inspection. I've got my own custom bee suit, which is where you go and you buy the most freakishly giant bee suit, and then you have to modify it so that I can fit into it. So I got a bee suit, and then and so I go and they always are like, well, let's open up the hive and have a look, see how things are going. We'll find the queen and we'll check it out, and then I go to Jacqueline's place, and it's she's hosting a workshop for people that are keen on bees. So for the whole group, she opens up a hive. But she will not put the lid on until she is sure that not a single bee will be harmed.
Oh, my God.
And so it was like 10 minutes of her talking to the bees and like, oh, no, you got to go back in. And so until she could get to a point where she could put the lid back on. I mean, it was just that important to her that a bee didn't get hurt. Now, let me take this here a little bit further. The first time I ever met Jacqueline, it was a Sepp Holzer event. And Sepp was going to be down in Vancouver, Washington. And so there were like 4 different farms in the area that you could stay at while you're down there for the event. And so you got to, pay $50 a night or something like that. So I said, I'll do that. And they assigned me to Jacqueline's house. And so I get there, and it's already dark, and she says, okay, well, we got 2 rooms. You can take your choice which room you want. There's the one that's heated, and then the one that's not heated. And it's like, I'm kind of thinking like, why would you do that? And so I asked her, like, something like that. Why would you have one room heated and one room not heated? Like, do people come up and like, oh, I want not heated? Like, that's, and she says, well, it's because that's where the ladybugs are.
Oh.
It's like, okay, I don't know what exactly that means. You've got, so then we go into the unheated room, and she pulls back. There's like a towel hanging on the wall. She kind of pulls it back, and there's like, I don't know, several thousand, maybe several hundred, maybe a couple thousand ladybugs behind the towel. And she says, I think there's like about 200,000 in the wall. And this is where they are dormant through the winter. And then they'll all leave in the spring.
Okay.
And it's like, whoa. And I said, well, I'm going to stay in the ladybug room. It's just kind of, I've never stayed in the ladybug room before. The ladybugs. So then the next thing is it's like, she says, come over here, and if you come out the room and you go over to the stairs, put your hand on the wall right here. And it's wintertime, it's February. And I put my hand on this exterior wall, and it's really warm. Like, not quite hot, but really warm. And she says, there's a colony of bees living in the wall right here. And, of course, bees like to keep things at 96 degrees, and so it feels very warm.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the last item like that was that I was there in the summertime once, and she says that every night at 5 o'clock, they go through the house and they open up all the doors in the house. And then in a couple of minutes, a bat comes along, flies in the back door, goes to every room in the house eating all the bugs, and then flies back out.
Oh, he scored. He found the perfect place.
So now the key is that this is kind of how they live, with this very symbiotic relationship with nature. Yeah. Everything they do is like that.
That's cool.
And so I'm glad that she's going to be at our permaculture design course, and she's going to teach a segment or 2 on honeybees. Now, each guest instructor teaches at least 3 segments.
Yeah.
And so and each segment is an hour and a half long. So I think Jacqueline's going to be with us for several days, but I'm not sure about that. There's no commitment, but she told me she wanted to come for like 4 or 5 days, maybe even a week. And she's just excited about the event. I said, that's cool. No problem.
The beekeepers I've met definitely had that kind of relationship with the bees, or not that much, or they had a relationship of more than normal with insects. And it just reminded me of Michael Jordan, the bee whisperer. He has a design where he's got his front door is a beehive, so that if the cops ever come and bash the door in, they're fucked.
Surprise!
And he's got a design for it's a pulley in the house, like an emergency pulley. When he pulls that, there's beehives along his fence, all along his fence, and it shakes them all.
Well, that doesn't seem very respectful to the bees.
No, it's not.
But it's going to be a biological warfare. You you got bad guys coming around and
Yeah.
stick 'em.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you my Michael Jordan story. Actually, I got a couple. So, but my first story is that when I was in the 9th grade, there was a kid that was in the 8th grade, and he decided to break my woodworking project. He just picked it up and threw it on the ground and smiled. And so, I'm a fucking giant. I am, and back then in the 9th grade, I was probably double this guy's mass. I don't know what he thought would happen, but I don't know. And then if you just do it, because he threw it on the ground, he broke it. His name was Michael Jordan. And he threw it on the ground, and he broke it, and he looked at me and grinned like, what the fuck are you going to do? I did what anybody would do. You punch the fucker in the face. and so I had to go to the principal's office, and I just hit him, and he hit the floor, and then so I'm sitting in the principal's office, and there goes the health teacher, and then I'm waiting, I'm sitting there to see the principal, and then there go two guys with a stretcher, from the ambulance. Apparently, he didn't come out of it until he was at the hospital for several hours, but. I don't know. I mean, why would you want to pick a fight with a giant guy? I don't understand that. I mean, and I didn't even think about it. It's like, that's just instinct. That's just what you do. Somebody does something like that, you just hit him. I would imagine if he was bigger than me, I still would have tried to hit him. I don't know. So in the end, we both got 2 weeks of detention. I got 2 weeks of detention sitting in the library, and he got 2 weeks of detention scrubbing toilets. So, but that's my first Michael Jordan story. Now, the second one is that Jack got really, really angry with me about Michael Jordan. And that's because I recorded a podcast about reverence for bees, honeybees. And I was at this event a few years ago, and there was a guy there, and he said he went by I'm the bee whisperer. Well, it turns out there's about 200 different people who all call themselves the bee whisperer, and this dude was not Michael Jordan. It was some other guy, but he wanted. So there's a bunch of kids there and stuff, and he wanted to make the point of something like bees. He said something like, bees are not flying monsters. So this is the thing he wanted to impress upon these kids. Bees are not flying monsters. So he took a super full of bees and went bang, 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 bang. Kind of like the whole let's activate our defense thing, But he's like, and I'm kind of thinking like, dude, that's not cool, man. Mr. Bee Whisperer, that doesn't look very whispery to me.
You're whispering hate crimes into their face. Oh man.
I thought it was horrible to the bees. I thought that was really disrespectful. That was awful. That was awful. And so I mentioned this in a podcast. And next thing you know, I got Jack jumping down my throat because he's defending Michael Jordan.
The different bee whisperer.
It took days until I could convince Jack that I was talking about a totally different guy.
Yeah.
And then I finally said, look, go to Google right now and type in bee whisperer and tell me who comes up as number one. And it's like, I know that on my results, the first 10 none of them were Michael Jordan. And so then Jack finally, allowed me to live. Woo! He was pissed.
Yeah, you don't want to get on his bad side.
So, look at his comments. See, for a while there, I wasn't able to read the comments.
How would have that been improved?
I still need to submit my design for PermaEthos design.
Do it. Well, I mean, do whatever you want.
Here's some. This Eric Little says, I got both your DVD sets, Paul. Love them. Wanting to do a rocket mass heater at my new house. She blinded me with science. That must be about Erica. The smoker might be nice to fire up. That's true. I think it'd be cool if we could fire up the smoker. We've got this rocket smoker that's really awesome. Oh, man, we've had some delicious food out of that thing. Plus, another cool thing is that Ernie built us a rocket kiln. I think it'd be kind of cool to, like, you know, do a little pottery stuff, throw it in there, and fire that thing up. Let's see. Love Michael's demeanor, laid back. All right. Should have taken his hand and shoved it in after banging them like that. Sounds like a dickhead. Dickhead sounds about right. I think I would go with dickhead. Yeah.
It's a good description.
All right, so there you go. That's the permaculture design course we got coming up.
You still got one more, and I got more questions about the piece.
Oh, right. Davin Hoyt is he's an architect, and he's going to be there, and he's going to be there the whole time helping people draw stuff. He's been here several times out to Wheaton Labs. He's done tons of stuff for us. He's gone and helped out the ants with a lot of their designs. And whenever I'm trying to talk about Wafatis, he's always great to draw me up something. He draws stuff up by hand a lot. And but he's savvy at all kinds of different tools, but it seems like drawing stuff by hand is his thing. And he does amazing work, and he scratches it out so fast. And so I think that's a big thing. I mean, if you can build your confidence in being able to draw a mat, I think that's a big part, because the other thing is you got to be able to express the design. You got to bring all, because in permaculture we talk about all the little bits and bobs all the time. We talk about, you know, rocket mass heaters, and we talk about hugelkultur, and we talk about a berm, and we talk about, but it's like these are all techniques, artifacts. These are all like little pieces. Yeah. But it's kind of like you got to, how you bring it all together, there's so much more to that. So, you
see, especially when you get a bunch of people from a bunch of different backgrounds with a bunch of different knowledge, they all have something or some way to apply that knowledge to what they're learning in the PDC. And it's great when they're, you know, the sharing. And I don't know.
All right, you cut out.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I really love when you put people in groups together, because they get to start really sharing that knowledge, like having them work on a design together or something like that.
So when I took my PDC in 2005, I had been doing permaculture for years, and I was excited to take my PDC. I mean, the reason why you take a PDC is that it's like, I just want all my life, all day, every day to be about permaculture. And it's like the best way is to attend a PDC. But when I took it, we got to the part where we were starting to do the design. They broke us off into groups. And I think that the lesson that's to be learned is that people are so different, and you're trying to collaborate on a thing. Now, I had up to that point, you know, my corporate horror life was to be a guy who got companies unstuck. So I would go in and I would take a look at what's going on, and I would get the company to move forward despite all their problems. And so when I was flying there, I kind of made a commitment to myself that I'm not going to be that guy during this event. I mean, not only do I harsh everybody smooth, and basically I make a lot of people cry, but I didn't want that. This is going to be fun for me. And so I'm making a commitment to myself. I'm going to not be Mr. Pressure everybody to get it fucking done. I'm going to just zip it and not do that. So now I didn't realize that part of it was that we're going to all make this design together. And it's like, and I'm trying to be real quiet, And so in my group, there's like 5 of us, and this one guy in the group told us all what to do, gave us all assignments, and then he split for like a day. It's like he's just bossy. And it's like, I just thought it was hilarious because it's like, this is, and then on top of that, I thought that the direction that he gave was shit. I thought he was, so like right when he left, then everybody kind of like was talking about, like, I don't know if that's the best thing to do. And I said, I don't think I want to do the thing he told me to do. I think I would rather do something else. And he didn't give me time to say anything like that. So I think I'm going to do my thing, and then he'll come back and he might be displeased, but I kind of feel like it wasn't cool for him to leave either. The key is that all the groups are going through something. Because all the groups, it turns out that if you look at each one of those groups, all the groups are made of people. And each one of them, they're so human, and all that implies. Every person shows up at everything they do with a big fucking bucket of crazy. And it's like, it was comedy. You could make a sitcom out of this. And now I've been to all these other PDCs afterwards, where I'm a guest instructor or, whatever. And it's like, I see this comedy over and over and over again. And of course, it's like a different episode every time, but the same comedy channel.
Yeah, you got to be, well, one thing you definitely don't want too large of groups, because you end up with 1 or 2 people out of the group doing the design and everybody else sitting around. That's what I found.
Well, Tim is super passionate about all of this. And he wants, so like the class is limited to 24 students, which, by the way, we only have 10 tickets left.
Ooh.
And we haven't even been selling them. I don't think we've been selling for a month yet. Yeah, we haven't even been selling them a month yet, and we've only got 10 tickets left.
And I'm about to send out a newsletter on this, guys, so if you want it, you should get it now.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure what Tim has in mind to address what you're suggesting there, but I think it is a very good point. And I do think I've seen some of that where people kind of just, it's like, I just want to phone it in. I just want to get the certificate when it's over. And so if I kind of like, shrink and look small, I can get by. I suspect Tim won't let them do that.
I think what happens is there's 1 or 2 people in the group that are just more outgoing or more just like, let's get this shit done. And the rest of them are like, okay. Like they're not demanding enough. They don't step in and say, wait a minute, I got to be part of this too. So anyway, what's the daily schedule like?
This schedule is brought to you by Tim made the first pass, and then I made it more brutal. But one of the things we're doing at this PDC is food is included, and Tim was really adamant about that. In that he kind of feels like there's only 2 weeks and there's so much to cover, and the guest instructors are so good that everybody's going to want to like drink and all of that, and there's really not time for people to, be cooking their own food or whatever. Yeah. So you gotta have food. So, in fact, I should augment this based on some conversations I've had with Fred last night. In that, like we were talking about, like we should make it clear that breakfast is like 7 to 7:30, and then 7:30 to 8 is cleanup. Mm-hmm. Because I noticed like every PDC I've ever been to, breakfast will be at 7, and then people will show up at like 7:56 to get breakfast. And it's like, no, there's already people trying to clean everything up now so they can go and see all the stuff. And, and these people are like trying to grab food and take it with them to eat it while the stuff's going on. So I'm kind of thinking like, oh yeah, I want to be, because when I took my PDC, I mean, I was there before 7, I wanted to start talking to everybody about permaculture.
Yeah.
And in fact, while I was at my PDC, I mean, my PDC that I took was an amazingly powerful experience. And the thing that went, there was 24 students, and 24 is a pretty standard number for the number of students at a PDC.
Mm-hmm.
And what went through my mind was, how do I live this way? Like what I'm experiencing at this class all day, every day for the rest of my life. I want it to be just like what I was experiencing at that class. So and then the other thing is that it's when I took the PDC back in 2005, the thing I got before was like, you have to read these 5 books before you arrive. And so I had read all 5, and then of course, I don't know, hundreds of other books, but only maybe like 5 others on permaculture. There were maybe, 11 or 12 books even out on permaculture at the time. Yeah. And so I'd read most of them, and I was so bonkers about it and so passionate to be meeting all the people there and stuff that I don't know, I became obsessed on every moment. I mean, not only through breakfast, but through every meal, all I wanted to do was to visit with people about permaculture. And I just ate it up all the time. And now I don't know, some of the other people there, they were not as enthusiastic as I was. But that's to be expected, I suppose. But I've been to a lot of events where there were a lot of people that were just that bonkers about it.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like a lot of people say, oh, I don't need to take a permaculture design course. And it's true, you don't. There's no reason to do it, really. You can go ahead.
$1,400 to $2,400 are fucking pretty motivated.
Well, yeah, that's another thing too. Is a lot of PDCs are like $2,500 to $3,000. Yeah. And we're offering this one for $1,100.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And now there are some that have been like $1,400 and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think we're doing pretty good at offering at a very low cost. And I kind of think you'd be hard pressed to find a PDC with a superstar lineup of guest instructors as we have.
Especially, that's a really good price, especially if you're feeding everybody, because it's fucking expensive to feed people. 24 people is expensive to feed. Okay. All right.
What are we doing now?
Wow. All right. So there's more I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to make sure we got everything out on the PDC. Head over to richsoil.com/PDC.JSP or just Google Rich Soil PDC.
Well, now I'd say like 4 out of 5 of the tickets that we're selling, people are going to attend both the PDC and the ATC. Mm-hmm. So the appropriate technology course happens right after the PDC. You get a day break, a 1-day break, and then we jump right into the ATC.
How long is the ATC?
2 weeks.
Okay.
So, and Tim was here teaching the ATC last year. But the appropriate technology course, I mean, if you look at, can you click over to look at that? I think you got to scroll down a bit. Scroll. There it is. Appropriate technology course. See it? There you go. And so this is Tim's superpower right here. Is doing low tech stuff as appropriate technology. And I think we might have 5 solar ovens here now that are commercial solar ovens. And then I remember last year, I don't know if he'll do it again this year. I don't think he should ever, because what he does is like on the first day, he asks everybody like, what's the stuff you're the most into? And then he changes the class through the 2 weeks based on what people's interests are. But I know that last year he had a contest to see who could boil water the fastest with their own, and it's like it was all cardboard and foil. Yeah. So then we had this massive cardboard and foil. But like, which shape is the best shape to do a solar oven, because everybody gets the idea. It's not that profound, you know, but it's like when you try stuff, there are some designs that work much better than others, and it's a quick thing. It doesn't take very long. Cardboard and foil. I mean, we're talking about what, 20 minutes? So most of the time is spent, of course, in actually boiling the water.
Yeah.
All right, that was, and then he also did a solar food dehydrator, was another big project last year. I'm trying to think of like what were other things. It seems like there were a couple of other really cool things. Oh, there was also a rocket cook stove that was built. It was actually kind of more like it was already built, and so then the class took it apart and put it back together to kind of see all the insides. Oh, everybody at the course learned at least the basics of woodworking, and also everybody did welding. I think everybody got in a good hour of welding, and welding something that was required. So like one of the things that we had here is Peter Vandenberg's batch box rocket mass heater, which I gotta say, like, I don't want to ever see a batch box rocket mass heater without a door ever again. And it seems like this has gotten to be the, you know, everybody's so excited about the batch box designs, but they just suck if they don't have a good door. And so that was a big thing that Tim and the ATC class last year took on, was to weld up a very good door for Peter's batch box system.